Now, U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington and Tehran are very close to a peace deal. He claimed that Iran had agreed to hand over its enriched uranium, which is a key sticking point in negotiations. Hear this out.
Very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bomber. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positive.
Now, later at an event in Las Vegas, Trump said that the war in Iran is going swimmingly and that it should be ending pretty soon.
I will say the war in Iran is going along swimmingly. We can do whatever we want, and it should be ending pretty soon. It was perfect. I mean, it's perfect. It was the power we have, our military. We have the most powerful military anywhere in the world. I built it 4 years, my first 4 years.
Iran's nuclear activities were a sticking point at talks in Pakistan last weekend. Trump also said that if an Iran deal is reached and signed in Islamabad, he might go. On Thursday, Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir met Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. Munir is in Tehran as head of a high-level delegation within the framework of mediation efforts between Iran and the U.S. The meeting with Pezeshkian came after Munir met Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who led the Iranian delegation at the first round of talks last week. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is now in Turkey's Antalya, the third stop of a 4-day regional tour after Jeddah and Doha. Sharif and his team are expected to meet counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and potentially Egypt on the sidelines of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Iran's UN ambassador later said that Iran was cautiously optimistic about peace talks with the United States, expressing hope for a meaningful outcome. Now, a day earlier, Iran has insisted that its right to enrich uranium was indisputable, although the level of enrichment was negotiable. Trump has insisted any deal with Iran must permanently block it from acquiring nuclear weapons. He launched the war claiming that Iran was rushing to complete an atomic bomb. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful. Washington has reportedly sought a 20-year suspension of Iran's uranium enrichment program, while Tehran has proposed suspending nuclear activity for 5 years, an offer U.S. officials have rejected. Washington has sought to escalate pressure on Tehran by blocketing its ports, with U.S. Central Command claiming to have completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by the sea.
U.S. action is a blockade of Iran's ports and coastline, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Enforcement will occur inside Iran's territorial seas and in international waters.
And all this comes as a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has taken effect. Now the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear stockpile remain the key sticking points between the U.S. and Iran. The 2-week ceasefire, which halted attacks in Iran and the Gulf, is due to expire on Tuesday.
You could say we did it at a...
And to give us more details on this, my colleague Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Let's listen in.
President Trump says Iran has agreed to hand over what he calls nuclear dust, highly enriched uranium believed to be buried underground after U.S. strikes against key sites in Fordo and Natanz. If confirmed, this would be a major step towards limiting Iran's nuclear capabilities on the one hand, and could also eliminate the need for a risky U.S. military operation under consideration to physically recover that material. Now, this comes as negotiations will likely happen in Islamabad between the U.S. and Iran. Will President Trump attend? Well, he says he might. But all of this is happening as a fragile ceasefire is nearing expiration, a make or break moment of renewed conflict, or possibly not. All this as earlier in the day, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that the U.S. military continues to be locked and loaded on Iran's critical infrastructure if diplomacy fails. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.